Assad base. There were a significant number of casualties. Thank God there were no deaths. But it's a prideful nation. It's part of the axis of resistance. It needs to demonstrate that it will resist. So certainly our force protection elements are in place, but I don't know. I would be very, very surprised if the Iranians don't attack either with their missiles, their militias, or through direct terrorist activities.
Anna Gasparin, your view of, well, the combined attacks, Israel and United States?
Well, I think Israel has been pushing for regime change in Iran. The claims that Iran was...
On Piers Morgan Uncensored, tensions soar as Israel and the U.S. strike Iran's nuclear sites, sparking furious debate. Military experts clash with progressive voices over war, regime change, and Gaza's suffering. Accusations fly of hypocrisy, war profiteering, and truth manipulation. Who's playing politics with human lives? Let's break this down with unfiltered heat from both sides.
Close to developing a nuclear weapon was false. Not only were they over a year away, according to Netanyahu himself, in being able to develop a nuclear weapon, they didn't even have a mechanism in order to deliver said nuclear weapon. This has been all about engaging in a regime change war. That's what this is. Anyone who's pretending like this is about nuclear weapons is lying to you. Again, the United States is forced to fight another war on behalf of Israel. And I just want to ask Conricus a question real quick, because I'm seeing a lot of videos of Israelis leaving Israel to go home to the United States or to Greece or to other European countries. You guys got what you wanted. You guys got your war. Are you expecting American troops to fight this war and die on your behalf? Or are you going to bring the Israelis back, tell them to put their fatigues on and get ready for a ground invasion? Because if they want regime change, they're going to need a ground invasion, and Americans shouldn't be forced to do it.
Exposes the raw frustration about U.S. military involvement in foreign conflicts driven by Israeli interests, pushing back against proxy war exploitation.
I will let Jonathan Conricus respond. All I would say, in relation to your super confidence that Iran was not planning to weaponize its enriched uranium, what else could they possibly have been planning, given they took the enrichment process, according to the Independent Atomic Energy Authority, they took their enrichment of uranium from the 3.5% required for civilian usage to 60% in the last few years. There is no other reason you would do that if you weren't at the very least wanting people to believe that you were going to be weaponizing your uranium. Otherwise, why do it?
Well, I mean, they were not enriching uranium under the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, which unfortunately Trump took the pressure from Netanyahu to pull out of in 2018, which essentially cleared the way for Iran to enrich uranium. Now, yes, they enriched up to 60%. You need 90% in order to have the material necessary to build a nuclear weapon. However, I think what Iran was doing, considering the fact that they're in a region of thugs in Israel who clearly have been announcing that they want regime change in Iran, they wanted a deterrent. I think that's what they were doing. And as this war in Gaza, this genocide in Gaza continues, I think they wanted some form of a deterrent, much like Israel has with their over 90 nuclear weapons that they don't acknowledge, of course. They're not part of the non-proliferation treaty, even though Iran was. Just really interesting comparisons there.
Okay, General Kimmy, I know you have to leave us. Jonathan Conricus, I will come to you in one moment, but I just want to ask the General to respond to that. Is there a naivety by many on the left, you think, about Iran's intentions with this enriched uranium? Because look, I oppose the Iraq War as a newspaper editor in the UK very vociferously. It cost me my job in the end, actually. But I think I was vindicated over time by subsequent events. But here I just looked at that Independent Atomic Energy report and I thought, what else could they possibly be doing? If you enrich your uranium at that level and you have enough to build potentially 10 atomic bombs, I don't know what else Iran wanted the world to think it was doing. Enough about 9 to 5. What about the most important bit, the 5 to 9? It should be the most comfortable part of your day, and today's sponsor can help. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets are temperature regulating and designed to wick away both heat and moisture so you can sleep several degrees cooler. They're soft, breathable, and guaranteed to give you a more comfortable night's sleep. They also have high-quality breathable clothes for all-day luxury. You can try it all risk-free with Cozy Earth's 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. If you don't love their products, you can return them hassle-free, but trust me, you won't want to. Luxury shouldn't be out of reach. Go to CozyEarth.com and use code PIERS, P-I-E-R-S, for up to 40% off. Cozy Earth's best-selling, temperature-regulating sheets, clothes, and more. You will feel the difference on the very first night. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code PIERS. Stay cool.
Listen, I think we need to recognize that for the past 30 years, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been warning the world about the Iranian nuclear threat. What is different about today? Listen, the excuses and the rationale that was used are the same ones that could have been used 20 years ago. Fact remains, October 7th changed everything. The axis of resistance and the ring of fire was a deterrent to Israel ever since it was established. Hundreds of thousands of weapons, hundreds of thousands of missiles and warheads were aimed at Israel and could, as was said at Thermopylae, could blot out the sky and overwhelm any kind of air defense system that the Israelis had put up. Since October 7th, the Israelis have methodically taken away and torn away and destroyed most of that capability. Deterrence was off. This is a once-in-a-lifetime generation for the Israelis to attack, and every Israeli pilot for the past 30 years has wanted to be the first one in the cockpit to end that nuclear program. The fact that the Ring of Fire was destroyed and it was now a manageable threat from Iran, no longer deterrence. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and Netanyahu took that opportunity.
Final question before I let you go.
But it wasn't Israeli pilots. It was American pilots. Let's be clear about that. American pilots did this incredibly risky mission. Luckily, none of them got hurt. But this is going to start a full-blown war with Iran, a war that the United States should not be fighting on behalf of any foreign country, including Israel. It's unacceptable.
Highlights a harsh reality. American lives are risking consequences for conflicts largely driven by Israel's regional agenda, raising serious ethical questions.
All right,
Unacceptable.
we don't actually.
How many years do American taxpayers and
Hang
our
on.
members of our military need to be slaves to the Israeli government? I need someone to answer that question.
Okay, listen,
Well,
I know General
A
Kim.
genocidal regime.
Hang on, General Kim, it does have to go. I just want to ask you before you go, just one last question. Would you, as a military commander, have been comfortable about what the IDF has been doing at the behest of the Israeli government in the last 3 months in Gaza?
Well, I'd rather answer the question directly of Gasparin. Look, as somebody who's worn a uniform for 30 years,
Casparian.
the conditions that had been set by the Israeli Defense and the Israeli Air Forces and Mossad meant that this was not only the most lethal attack since Hiroshima, but it was also the safest attack. The fact remains, the IAF had wiped out the air defenses. Mossad had put a lot of pressure. This was the safest operation, not to include the Great Deception Plan, where President Trump used Winston Churchill's axiom that the truth is so important, it must be a bodyguard of lies. And I would tell you right now, there's not an American pilot that was worried about this attack and had anything but pride for this attack.
Okay, and just finally, the answer to my question?
If it was about Gaza, again, I think that I certainly don't commend the killing of innocents and civilians, but you know that when the enemy wraps itself around civilian targets, civilian facilities,
You support genocide.
that facility is now
You're
no
okay with
longer.
it.
It is
You're okay
now
with
a
it.
military target. I don't necessarily see at this point that it's genocide, for the simple reason that the Gazans and Hamas have an opportunity to end that, and that's to return the hostages and end this carnage. In previous actual genocides,
That's a lie, and you
they
know
weren't
it.
giving any-
You know it.
they're-
They're shooting and killing civilians at humanitarian aid hubs dozens of them on a daily basis. Literal children are getting shot in the
right,
face.
Piers. It is good time.
It's a genocide.
Piers,
it's a genocide.
Piers,
Okay.
you are right.
Genocide.
It is a good time for me to leave.
Okay.
I thought we were going to have a discussion,
See you later.
not propaganda.
Okay.
Thank you.
General Kimmett, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. We're going to be joined on the panel by Kaveh Afrasiabi, a former advisor to Iran's nuclear negotiating team, who was arrested in the US for alleged spying before being pardoned by Joe Biden. But before we speak to him, I want to talk to Jonathan Conricus. A lot has been said in the last few minutes. What's your response?
Well, hello, everyone. I can, even though I've never met the person who is constantly interrupting others, I don't think we've ever even communicated on X, but I can feel your frustration. No, don't interrupt me. I can feel your frustration. I can feel how sad you are. I can feel how difficult it is for you to see Israel teaching the Iranian regime a lesson and Israel winning on the battlefield. I can understand that it's frustrating for you. I can understand that you're having a tough time dealing with reality.
This incendiary accusation reveals the deep-seated emotional and ideological fault lines fueling the debate, framing opposition as rooted in hate rather than policy critique.
You have to actually address the substance of my argument. Why are IDF soldiers shooting and killing children at humanitarian aid hubs? You genocidal prick.
And frankly,
can you answer
really
that
your
question?
talking points are tired.
The whole world sees you guys for what you are.
I'm not here to answer your questions, Mrs. Interrupter. I'm not here to answer your questions.
Fight your own damn
Last time I checked, this wasn't your channel. This wasn't your channel, and you've done nothing but interrupt and talk nonsense.
Constantly taking from the
You've
American
only been
people,
talking nonsense so
both
far,
in the
and I've been
form of
sitting here and
American
listening
lives
quite
and in the form of
politely
American
to your
taxpayer
nonsense,
dollars.
and you
Pay for
keep
your own
on
damn
screaming
weapons.
All right,
over
guys,
me
we need to
as if
hear
you're right.
individually
Guys,
talking. Don't talk over each
stand-
other. There's no point.
I can't stand these people and their disgusting lies.
But
As
excuse
children
me,
are
I
getting
was
slaughtered
talking, and then you
by
started
the dozens
interrupting, and you're
daily
screaming.
at these
You're
humanitarian aid hubs.
impolite.
I can speak over
You're
you
not even
endlessly.
facts-based.
All right,
You're
Anna,
just
listen,
screaming
we can't have a
nonsense
debate,
at me,
Anna.
and it's not going to
We
work.
can't have a debate if you don't let Jonathan
at least
let him.
Americans are forced
at least
to
let
fund
Jonathan-
genocide. It's
Let Jonathan
disgusting.
let Jonathan say what he wants to say. Then you
Piers.
can respond.
Listen, Piers, this isn't going to work.
It's the
Clearly, you
entire
can see
talking
that
points,
she's
but
here
okay,
to
go ahead.
Anna, let him
instigate.
talk, please.
She's here to instigate. She is here to instigate. She constantly interrupts. That is not a way to have a meaningful discussion. And if I'd ask you to kindly, put her in place so that at least I could say 2 or 3 sentences.
Put her in place.
That's the first
Putting
thing.
your
Now
ass
I
in
can
place.
understand the frustration of so many people that are Israel haters, disguising as liberals, disguising as humanitarians. I can see and feel, and I even have compassion for your feelings that you see the great empire that the Iranians built against us. It is being decimated piece by piece, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. And it must be frustrating. It must be frustrating to see
because you
Israel
guys have
defend
occupied the
itself
American government,
after a
obviously.
Hamas attack on
But all
October the
those boomers
7th.
are going to be
And
gone
it must
one day,
be
and I can't
frustrating
wait.
to see Israel persisting and winning and defeating our enemies despite the efforts of the likes of you and many others who have teamed up against Israel. And I can understand the frustration, but guess what? It's not going to help. Your opinion isn't true. It is not reality-based. Just like you just said in the beginning that Israelis are fleeing. On the contrary, Israelis are lining up, and there's actually a national airlift to get home. There's an Israeli national airlift to get Israelis home from all over the world, from Greece and from Cyprus, so that they can come home to be with their families as Israel is being attacked.
Go back to Israel. Put your uniforms on.
All right,
boys
I'm now going to go. I'm going to bring in Dinesh here, and I would appreciate if everyone just let each other talk. Otherwise, the viewers can't hear a damn thing. Dinesh, thank you for your patience in waiting so long to speak. First of all, what is your... I mean, look, there's a lot of speculation about what Donald Trump may do next. I happen to think that he is instinctively anti-war. I don't think there's any chance he wants to put any boots on the ground here. I think if he can make it one and done with the strikes that he ordered, I think he would be happy with that, as he was with the strikes against Syria, against Soleimani, against Baghdadi. You know, he's a guy who likes to go in, targeted, and out. I don't think he wants any kind of prolonged war. However, once you do something like Trump ordered at the weekend, it can be out of your hands. It really depends how Iran responds. What do you think is going to happen here?
I think that we are learning that Trump represents a repudiation of the Bush tradition, but he doesn't represent a repudiation of the Reagan tradition. Trump is quite willing to use force, but he uses it discriminately, he uses it quickly and decisively. And Trump's own rhetoric very much supports this. I think that a lot of this anxiety is because of the bad lessons that came out of the Iraq war. But Iran is not Iraq, and Trump is not Bush. And the fictional weapons of mass destruction in Iraq are not the same as functioning nuclear facilities enriching uranium in Iran. So I think that it's important to look at this situation for what it is. Now, who can argue that the world is not better off when Iran doesn't have nuclear capacity? Whether there's a 50% chance that they were going to get there, a 70% chance, a 90% chance, it would be really good to have a 0% chance that they could get there at all. This is a fanatical militant regime. It is different than places like China and Russia in that it has always had an ideology of global involvement, global destruction, global terrorism, death to America. You don't have to seek for a motive here. They deliver it to you from the Iranian parliament on a pretty daily basis. So the United States has very definite interests here. The interest is not necessarily in regime change, although I, for one, would welcome it. Who can argue that Iran would not be better off than under the mullahs? And I think the big losers here are, in fact, Iran, Hamas, but also the global left. The global left has partnered in a way with these Hamas radicals. And so they are taking a tremendous beating here. All their idiotic campus protests are for naught. So this is why we're getting all this screaming and hysteria from Anna, because she realizes that not only is Iran going down, so is our own ideology.
I don't like watching children get slaughtered by a genocidal regime that we're unfortunately funding with our taxpayer dollars and with military weapons. That's what I don't like. Look at Conriquez. Look at how flippant he is when it comes to children getting killed. That's the kind of person you are, Conriquez. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. The international community sees it. And honestly,
assaults against me are not going to work.
It is a stain on America's reputation.
You are not going to have any impact on me.
Modern-day Nazis today in their genocide.
This segment exposes the raging front line of debate over the Israel-U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear sites. Military experts warn of inevitable Iranian retaliation. Progressive voices reject regime change war plans, warning Americans should not die for Israeli aims. The exchanges reveal deep vitriol, interruptions, and personal attacks, exposing how fraught and polarized this discussion has become. Viewers must parse fact from faction, as the stakes, regional war or peace, could not be higher. Drop your take below. Who's telling the truth in this explosive conflict?